Pinar, thank you so much for your time. Uh, Disney's always prided itself in giving us some of the best and some of the emotional moments in cinematic history through animation and through feature films. What makes Us Again so special?
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, I can only say what it is about it that makes it special for me. I'm not sure if about everybody else, but from my personal, journey, uh, as Zach said, as he was getting older, and I'm older than Zach. I know it probably don't look that way. I'm kidding. I think that it's really one of those movies that is timeless and really speaks to age and the perception of age and how we as ourselves treat ourselves as we get older as well as others. And so what's so special about it is the energy and the vibrance and the celebration of dance and the celebration of music. We hope that it inspires people to just live and love themselves and continue to dance.
Absolutely. Pinar, you have such an incredible role in bringing all of this to life, sitting there watching it, tapping my feet, wanting to almost join in. Because it is just, it's grooving, it's funky, it has full of soul. And can you talk a little bit about your experience in kind of the early talks with Zach and your ideas in bringing this to life?
The early ideas, we were basically trying to figure out what Art and Dot would dance to when they were younger, so that became the initial spark. And from that, once we kind of honed in on the funk and soul idea, and I did my first pass. I wrote their themes, and we were trying to figure out, because there's no actual spoken dialogue, the conversation happens through music, so they needed to have their own instrument. So you could have that dialogue between the two of them just by switching and using the right instrument and the right theme. So we played around with that, and then once we established that, it just all kind of evolved from there.
There's a beautiful melody between music and dance, but to bring this all together, you guys also had to put together quite a creative team of dancers. We know Keone and Mari, and then Zach's story, Pinar's music. Brad, can you talk about the meetings and putting all this together and working together despite some of the challenges that our time has maybe brought?
Sure, yeah. We did do this during COVID, so there were challenges with that, but we were fortunate enough that we actually started about a year before the lockdowns happened. And during that process, what we did is we assemble our team. And at Disney, especially for short films, we try to give opportunities to people who want to be leaders that have never been leaders. So we open up, we figure out what we're going to need, what type of team members we're going to need in leadership. And then we open that up and we do interviews internally, and we then look for those folks. And on this particular movie, there were at least 4 leaders that were new leaders, and then 2 that had done jobs similar or kind of in alignment with. And then after that, once you put your team together, you start on that journey. You keep them up to date, just like we did with Pinar and Keone and Mari. We internally have morning meetings, and we talk about what we're going to do that day and week and month and what our goals are. And then we start the process of making the designs of the characters, then executing those in 3D. And then we build the assets, and while we're building the assets, we're doing the storyboards and putting up those different versions of the movie that we're sharing with our partners, Keone, Mari, and Pinar. And then that's how it all kind of evolves together.
Fantastic. Pinar, I have to ask you, because I got to give you credit where credit's due. I have it in my notes, correct me if I'm wrong, that this was the first time you had to ever record using the COVID protocols that were set. What was that experience like for you? And obviously you were successful, because here we are.
Yes. Well, I do have an amazing team that helped me put it together. I have an amazing contractor who made sure that we followed all the guidelines, and we work, everything had to be done right, working with Disney and the studio and everything else. So We recorded, so we had 40 strings, and then we had a big band on top of it. So we had close to 60 musicians all together, and the crew members too. But we couldn't all be in the same room at the same time. So strings were recorded, and then they left, and everything got sanitized, and then the brass came in, and the brass, they can't. In the olden days, normal days, they're closer together, and the way the layout is done, it was done very differently. They were spread across like in a football field, so that's where the engineering comes. It's really, really important to make sure that they still sound like they would normally. So honestly, I mean, we worked with the best of the best in every aspect of the score, and the musicians that played are just incredible musicians. So they everybody just made it seamless, and we didn't actually sacrifice on anything that we would have. It's exactly the score that I wanted to record. So we didn't have to cut corners in any way.
Music is so much language through it. It can remind us of a moment in life. It could convey emotions. It can do so much. In your own opinion, Pinar, as a composer, why is that? Why is music so I consider it vital in my life.
Oh, that's a whole, I mean, I could talk about that forever, right? Well, it's all about vibration and energy, right? And I think we all, I mean, once I get into the whole thing, I don't want to have a whole conversation about that, but that's kind of the magic of it, isn't it? Like why certain harmonies make us feel a certain way. And if you go back in music history, I mean, even going back to early music, and why, if you look at traditional music, why there are certain rules as to certain things you can do, certain things you can't do, because it was back in the day, the church felt that you could, that harmony made you feel that way, and no, that was the tone of the devil, like who says that, you know what I mean? Like, but it made us feel something. All of these harmonies, all of these things make us feel something. So it's really, really interesting to study it, and to decode it. And I mean, I've dedicated my life into decoding emotion into the sonic world, and that's something that I think that I'm going to keep learning, because it's fascinating to find why that one note, that one timing, you switch it and all of a sudden you feel something else. It's a constant exercise of musical and emotional research. That's what being a composer is, I think.
It sounds like such a wonderful adventure for you, and in what you do, and there's so much more I want to ask about it too. But I also want to, Brad, I want to ask you about the background, the city, the grandeur of everything you guys did. It's so beautiful, it's so vibrant, in a film that is so focused also on this couple's personal relationship and their journey. Why was it important to include that grandeur in the city in the background?
Yeah, Zach was really clear from the beginning that Art's challenge in the beginning of the movie is he's isolated himself from the world of dance, from the world of motion, because our world is movement, right? And so as he has aged, he has gone from being part of that world and dancing, which you see on those pictures behind him on the wall when you come in the window, the first shot of the movie. Art has set himself apart. And so what we really wanted to do was create a world outside that was just kind of like a dance club. I mean, it's just beautiful and fun and neon reflections, and art, and Dot is still part of that world. If you watch the shot where Art looks down at her from the balcony and she's crossing the street and she's walking across the street and everybody else is dancing around her. So she's part of that world still, and she's okay with it. He's not. So we had to make the world that place. So when you ended up at the end at the pier, it still feels like that, but then he recognizes it and he's okay with being part of that world.
Absolutely. Brad, Pinar, thank you so much for your time.
So much.
Congratulations on such a wonderful short. There's just so much storytelling in a little bit of time, and what you both do for it is all part of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being part of this today. Thanks.